right, so I know it's about 2 o'clock. Some folks are still signing in. Looks like we got some folks in our waiting room, so we're just going to give them a second to get on board.
Yeah, I'm connecting someone right now. Hold on.
All right. So Denise, did they get straightened out?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining in our fun and exciting luau this afternoon. Now we know it's just a virtual luau, and but we're still going to try to give you the mindset that we're all able to get together and hang out in a real life luau, and we're going to do the best we can with the limited options that we have. So. But thanks again for joining in, and we're hoping to show you a lot of fun and exciting stuff about RHA banking today. I did have a little bit of a surprise for Denise. She is, those who know her, she's a little bit of a character sometimes, and I wanted to kind of show you a little bit about what I found, because she's always kind of quoting different folks out there. So Denise, this one's for you from all the team here at RHA Banking.
Hey, Denise, I have a lovely message for you from all the folks that call you boss. They are thankful that you invited them to the luau. That's wonderful. Next time, please invite me. You sound like somebody I would like to meet. All the best to you. You are much appreciated. Adios.
Adios.
Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, so I couldn't pass him up. The most interesting man in the world. He wasn't wearing a smoker's jacket, but I think he got the point across that you might be the second most interesting man or woman in the world. But let's kick it off, right? We offer a lot of prizes in our description. So it looks like the first prize that we have for folks that turned up early, we're only going to pick out folks that actually, came into the luau today. So, and we're just picking random folks from the pool here. And looks like the first person we had was Mr. Frank here. Let's see.
Frank Waka?
Frank Waka has won himself a live streaming kit. So Denise, what is this thing?
This is, you can hook it onto your desk or whatever, and you can put your phone on it, and you can turn on the light, and Frank, it'll make you look 10 years younger.
That's awesome, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing some streaming from Frank when you get this thing set up. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will do.
Yeah, it's a requirement for winning, but no, I'm just kidding. All right, so I know a lot of the folks that are on the Zoom here kind of help build RHA in the past, but we also have some fresh faces, and just want to give everybody a chance to kind of get caught up with who we are and a little bit about what we do. So RHA Banking was kind of formed back in 2002, really, but it was Rick Heberts and Associates. And then most recently is Denise had acquired that business, and her business was IT Harmony. So after that acquisition, the name of RHA Banking had come about most recently. So that's why you'll see IT Harmony sprinkled out, because they do own RHA Banking. And so that's the reason why you see some of the name changes on the website, stuff like that. But at a high level, we're dedicated to community banks, and most of us here at the company kind of got our start in FinTech many years ago. We don't have to say how many, but it's been a while, and we've obviously fell in love with the banking and helping out local communities. That's been my stronghold, is being able to help banks help local and small businesses grow and making dreams come true and all that. So that's kind of what we've been focusing on since then. And we've had about 175 clients to date come and use different services through us, and over the last 30 years or so. So that's about us. And let's talk about the Luau. So here's a glimpse of the agenda that we're going to try to stick to as close as we can. Again, it's supposed to have some fun, so things may run over a little bit. We'll see if we can get to everything, but here's the plan so far. We're going to talk to Brian Pombo here in a second about customer retention strategy, and that's kind of the big picture of why we're doing this. Why are we working with data the way we do, and what the benefits are, and how it helps organizations. And then talk to Denise about business analytics, kind of go into some of the purposes about some of the professional services that we have. Then we're going to give away some more prizes, of course, and talk about more automation with Nintex, some of the services that we offer around that. Then hear from Kyla LeDuc with JD Bank, some of her experiences and what she's found useful. And then a little bit more automation with Nintex workflow, and then Zip Code Academy, more prizes, and of course another guest speaker, Mr. Ronald Ross, and more prizes. We got prizes every time, but you got to stay in here because it's only live Zoom folks that are eligible. All right, so the first up, we're going to be talking with Mr. Brian Pombo. He's our lead banking strategist, and then talk about strategic coaching. So Brian, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, and we'll go from there.
All right, thanks a lot there, Ray. Let's see here. There we go. So what we're going to talk about real quick here is just talk about the 7 ways to keep great customers. And another way of saying that is how to use clean data to keep great customers, because that's really what we're talking about here, is how to take a holistic approach so that when you walk away here, you're going to have an idea of what all the different people on here, what we do, but also you're going to have something that you can take and look at things a little bigger picture than just where you come in. Maybe you're head of IT or head of operations, but perhaps you're the CEO or president. But in any case, you've got to have a big picture to be able to show why what you're doing matters, why the clean data matters. Yeah, we all know why it matters, but you got to be able to explain that to all of the people that you work with, and being able to speak their language and see it from their perspective. So let's go into this a little bit. I'm just covering one area of what we do in the terms of business strategy, And hopefully you can walk away with these ideas and be able to run with it right away. Probably you may already have people on board that can take advantage of these ideas. And if you don't, we've got ways to be able to help you, but we want to at least get the ideas out there. And this may be kind of broad for some of you, and for some of you, it'll be really new concepts that you haven't really looked at it this way before. So the idea is clean data, right? And that basically means all your dreams are going to come true, right? I mean, that's the big goal. But why are we doing this? So we got RHA equals clean data, right? Then what? What happens after that? And there's a whole bunch of things that you can go about doing with it, and there's a whole lot of problems that you can tackle. But one of the first major ones that we hear about a lot when we're asking around is attrition. How do we fix the attrition issue, and how is clean data going to be able to help that out? Attrition. What is attrition? Attrition is, this is the definition. You go look it up. It's the action or process of gradually reducing the strength or effectiveness of someone or something through sustained attack or pressure. Okay, that's pretty heavy there, right? Synonyms include erosion, abrasion, depreciation, disintegration, grinding, rubbing, thinning, weakening. I mean, this is why attrition's a bad thing, folks, right? I mean, this is, you could talk about physical attrition, but attrition in your bank is a really, really bad thing. And we all know it stinks, but what can we do about it? Okay. What we found out from other banks, we've sat and talked to a lot of people about this issue through the years. And I really liked one of the things that we got from one a little bit ago. We sat down with them and they said they came up with this phrase, and it hit me. It's like, this is exactly the problem. He said, we know everything we need to do. That's not a mystery. We just don't know what order to do them in. All right. And I think if you think about it, you really do know everything that you need to do. And if you don't, somebody at your bank does. You know the things that need to happen. It's like, what do we do first? What is the most important? Where does all that sit? Okay. Hopefully you're going to find this useful information. I'll have some recommended steps at the end, but I'm going to go through the 7 key steps to keeping your best customers. And this is really specifically worded, meaning you don't want to hold on to the customers that aren't great, right? Your best customers are who you're really looking to hold on to, and you're hoping to duplicate that and get more of them. We can let a lot of the lower end customers, the customers that don't fit our style of banking, we can let them go. And you got to have that attitude and just keep focus on keeping the best customers. So first problem to attrition is finding the leaks, right? It's the best way to picture it. You got a leak. You got a leak below the sink. You got to figure out where it is first. That's the first thing. Why are they leaving? This is the big question you got to ask. How do you find out? Well, you got to survey them. There's a whole lot of different ways of surveying them, but most banks never do this. They just worry about it. They think about it. They come up with ideas on their own, but the only way to know for sure is to actually survey those customers who have left. You could do this by phone. You could do it by email. You could do it even by postcard. Using the mail is actually useful on this type of thing, okay? And the second question you got to ask is, once you start getting some clues as to why they're leaving from their mouth, that you got to find out specifically from them why. But do you miss them? Are they the type of people you want to keep on board, and are more following them? Are your current customers, are you in danger of losing them also? So you want to have a current customer survey of some sort. You got to reach out to your current customers. You got to find out if they're happy, and what could another bank provide that would lead them away. And that's kind of a difficult question to ask, but there's ways to go about doing it. But you've got to have the intention to go in that direction to begin with. So that's the first step. The second step, stop the leaks. Okay, it's not rocket science here, but it's tough to take this step by step by step. That you got to know the steps first. First, find the leak, then stop the leaks. How do you go about doing that? Well, once you find the problem, you fix the problem. And if it can't be fixed, if the problem can't be fixed because it's built into the system and you don't really know how to take it out of the system, then you got to find a way to make it irrelevant. Okay. You have to promote you do that. There's ways of doing that. You have to promote the opposite benefits that you provide that go against the problem that people are running away from. And then you promote the new way of doing business. However, whatever you're going to be focusing on, you need to promote that throughout the entire bank. Make sure not just the marketing is pushing it, but that, I mean, every single teller, everyone out there has the same idea in mind of what this new way is, so that the customers are on board and they understand what they're in for. You got to keep those current customers from straying. You got to make new customers secure in their decision to banking with you. So if you set them up right, if you set them up with the right focus on what they're going to get, what they aren't going to get, I mean, really, sometimes you have to bring out the negatives to accentuate the positives. And that's okay. But as long as their expectations are handled, that's what you're really after. And you got to entice those old customers back into the fold if you can, if you want them. If you want them back, you got to find a way to bring them back. Okay, so here's number 3. Develop a system that continues to build customer data and your CRM. Okay, so you got to, this is a great example of it is Barbara Toof. She came up, she worked with us and we helped her build the customer profitability report. And she gives a testimonial. There's a video about this. I'm going to put the link as soon as I'm off of here. I'm going to put the link in the chat so you can save that and go back and watch it later. You can also see it on the testimonials page at rhabanking.com. Okay. Number 4, you got to create your bank's identity. If it's not already out there, and most of the time, we just do not focus enough on this. It's branding. It's an overused word, but it is so important because good branding equals loyalty equals customer retention. So what do you want to be known for? What makes you unique against any and all competitors? Because we're not just talking about other banks. We're talking about apps that people can download on their phone now. We're talking about the competition grows and grows and grows. You have to keep differentiating yourself to really put yourself out there. And a big piece of that, especially if you're talking local, at your local banks, you got to have some type of personality built in if you can. And whether you love them or hate them, these are people who are big personalities that are out there that people take a stand on one way or the other. There's all types, and it's not just real people, it's fake people too. Okay, personality comes in all forms. And if you have a way to tie personality back in your bank, it makes a big difference, even the imaginary ones. So do you know any local personalities in your area? Do you know anyone that's just known locally, almost like a local celebrity? They exist. You got to think about that. You got to think, who is the face of your institution? Can you make somebody the local personality? I've seen this done. I didn't work directly with them. I worked as a customer with a credit union back in when I lived in California. And the president of this credit union was everywhere. I mean, he was at everything. His face was everywhere. There's goods and bads with that. You tie yourself directly with a personality, you've got the difficulty if that person ends up leaving or something. But if you have the ability to put somebody as the face of your institution, that's going to make a big difference. Is that person you? It might be. I don't know, but you've got to ask that question and see if it's possible to have a personality that leads things up. And then where can they get to know you? How can they get to know that personality? Where would they meet them? How would they be able to see them? Are there possibilities for that? Okay, here's number 5. Set up your branding, your customer retention team, okay, and determine their focus. Have a team of people that are responsible for doing this. Who's right for this job? Is it going to be your marketing PR people? Is it going to be whoever's handling your social media? Maybe it's somebody new. Maybe you need somebody new to be in charge of this type of thing. And then what are their metrics? You know, what makes a win or a loss? What are the clear cut? How are we going to know whether they actually do their job or not? That's the real problem with a lot of these issues is we never set guidelines to really know if they've done anything. So all you're doing is you're producing another team of people that get a paycheck, but they don't. You never have anything to measure them up against. Who's responsible with watching those numbers? Someone's got to pay attention and make sure it actually happens. Okay, number 6, start a digital communication calendar for current customers. Okay, so this is a must for any bank that's serious about managing their relationships and their image with customers, right? You have to consider this, and you got to consider what emails are being sent out on a regular basis. You got to consider social media, what social media is being done regularly that's planned, right? Media and all types of media, video, audio, blogging, any type of text stuff that gets sent out there. How often is it happening? How often do we want it to happen? You know, is too often possible? I've worked with clients that to this day send out emails at least once a day. You may think, oh my gosh, that's horrible. How is that even possible? It's possible. It can be done. The question is do you want to do that? Do you want to go in that direction? And have you even questioned the possibility of doing anything on a regular basis? Number 7, the 7th way to be able to keep your best customers, start a physical communications calendar for current customers. Okay. And I put this together, these original concepts pre-COVID, but this is more important now than ever. Now that things are opening up here and there, you have to really put emphasis on physical communication. Okay, it's more important now than ever. Okay, we're talking events, physical events, and you can even include digital in here to some extent until physical completely comes back. You got to consider digital events like the one you're at now. Is it your events? Is it someone else's events? Are you putting them on? Is someone else putting them on? Are you having like a customer appreciation days or anything of that sort? How do you want to be seen by the community? And where you're at in person is going to really matter to that, right? So now what? What happens? If you've got these ideas and they've kind of taken you, and I know this is just a quick concept that I just kind of floated out there, but you've got something you can work with. You're going to want to email Denise if you want us to be able to help you with this, because we have the ability. We can take you through a process. We've got something called the Worthington method that we can take you step by step, figure out what your problem is, whether it's attrition or whether you're looking to reach a huge goal and you're wanting to know how to go about doing it. That's what we can help with, whether it's in direct regards to clean data or not. You're going to want to email Denise. We can diagnose exactly what you need and kind of go from there. Okay. So there she is. Move ahead with the steps on your own, or we can help you, or with somebody else. Find someone else that can do the same thing for you. The most important thing is that you move ahead on these things just because nobody's doing it. You want to be able to beat out the competition. You want to add more customers, keep more customers, expand your branches, get promoted, and all your wildest dreams will come true. So that's all I got. Back to you, Ray.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Always good stuff. Awesome. All right. So now let me go ahead and get the main screen back going here. All right. So next we can hear from Denise herself to chat a little bit about business analytics. So Denise.
All right. For those of you who know me, know I love to work with business analytics. I've been doing it for some time. What I find, I just want to kind of go back to a couple things that Brian said, and one of those was, what's the competition doing? And if you're in a Fiserv Premier bank, or really probably in most organizations, you do have access to data. You probably have some sort of data warehouse out there that you're accessing. But what is your competition doing with that? Both with business analytics and also with all these other tools that we're going to talk about. How are they automating things to their advantage? Are people still cranking through information and just using business analytics to output to Excel, and then going into Excel and building some tables and doing a lot of manual kind of work with Excel? Or are they really using business analytics to the advantage of the business? One of the stories I like to tell is we had a customer ask us to take a process that was being done by someone who was about to retire, that took that person 2 weeks every single month to do that process. So she would build the spreadsheets, she would get the information out of business analytics, build the spreadsheets, and do 2 weeks worth of work. And she was trying to train someone else to do the work so she could retire. Well, she couldn't train that person. It just wasn't working. It was just so much detail that she had in her head. And what we did is we actually were able to take business analytics, take all the stuff that she was doing, and actually use a lot of grouping and sorting and building on different pieces of data, and take those 2 weeks of work that she was doing, and she was the only one who could do it, and actually replicate it to the point where now that bank actually runs those reports every month, and they're done. Like they're done the next morning for whoever is going to be working with the information. It's more of a push button approach now, instead of having to do all of those kind of the hard work in Excel. So that's the kind of stuff I really love to work on. I did when I first started working with Rick. I think I built over 10,000 reports where I converted them from the old-fashioned smart reports into business analytics. And believe me, you learn a lot about a system doing that. Thankfully, things have been a little more exciting, although I don't mind doing that. But to the point where we're actually using business analytics as the core to our name and address cleanup and some of the other engagements that we have, including looking at your specifications. So some of the other things that you could use business analytics for is month-end reporting. I've seen people do that, where it's same kind of thing as what I was telling you before, taking a process where you're doing all this work, you're creating all these pivot tables, you've got all these other pieces of data that you're changing every month to make sure that the mapping data comes in right and all of that, and putting all of that into business analytics. And it goes from all this really intense work to, hey, that ran last night, let's take a look and see if it looks good. So that kind of thing. And we're also, as we are doing the name and address engagements, we've been building out quality assurance reporting and automation. So that's coming out of business analytics. So you can actually look at, where are the issues that are developing real time. I'm also doing training. So I train people from the beginning of business analytics. They've never seen it before, all the way up to advanced training. So if you want to know how to build queries and how to get things into dashboards and things like that, I do that kind of training too. But my emphasis really, I think this whole thing is really about automation. And with business analytics, for me, that's the first stop. The first stop is not RPA. Sorry, everybody. And it's not it's not workflow and it's not all these other systems. Look at business analytics first, because that's coming right directly from the system. And if that can't automate it, then we start looking at some of the other things. And of course, you have other systems that you rely on that automate. But it's a key to what we're doing with our automation systems. And with that, I will turn this over.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. I know it is kind of the base layer, right? This is the well of all the data that we need to clean and distribute and sometimes load it back in. So, all right, so let's move along to the next item, which I believe everybody's going to be pretty happy with this as well. It's going to be a prize time again. So for all those
prize
time. All those folks that stayed on the line, to those two. All right, so let me run my little generator here.
I feel like Vanna.
Well, does that make me Pat? Because I'll be Pat Sajak. That's all right. So everybody hit leave us a comment or something if we want to do a Wheel of Fortune next time. We'll get a wheel, we'll spin it up. So speaking of spinning up, so Holly Pingator, you are our latest prize winner. So Denise, you want to tell them about this prize here?
Yes, this is now just I want to, before I tell about the prize, Michael Battersby asked about the training, and it is a week. I've lost my stupid power thing again. It's a week long, but it can be adjusted depending on what your needs are. And if anybody would like a copy of the agenda, just send me a note in the chat or send me an email. Hold on.
I think you clicked the wrong one there. That's all right. It happens to the best of us.
Hey, Ray, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is Holly. So thank you. This is great. And I was very interested in hearing about the BA training, and we definitely have a need for that. So this will come in handy.
Hey, fantastic. That's great. Well, one of the parts of this is that with that, first of all, you'll get to hear us in high definition with your new Bluetooth headset, but this also includes, I was going to let Denise tell it, but she's, having some technical difficulties, but it has $1,500 worth of professional services that you'll be able to use, which covers some of the training. So you can use that as your launching point, or whatever you want to use it for, because this goes really into any professional services, and you can use it as you see fit. So
Great.
Yeah, I know that worked out well. And then yeah, we'll of course be in touch afterwards to sync up. But congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, while we'll wait for Denise, let's go ahead. We can move on to the next section. And so next we're going to hear from Anwin about some of the Nintex RPA services.
Hi. So I guess if, business analytics is your base layer, it's your cake. RPA is kind of like the frosting on top. least that's how I feel about it anyway. So in case you don't know what RPA is, it's a program that allows you to do repetitive actions automatically. So, you know, anything that you do, sorry, my cat, anything that you do day to day, that you don't have to make really in-depth decisions on, anything that you could program into it, it can make those decisions for you, and it can save you a lot of time. So it can be used in conjunction with many applications and banking systems. We use it mostly within Excel and Navigator, and we pull all our data from BA. So BA is really an important part when it comes to this. Oh, Denise is back. Also, we are a certified Nintex partner. And with that, we offer things like account management. We do some training that can be individualized or in a group, and it can be, you know, it's kind of made to order.
That's a good way to put it.
However you want it. We've got a whole list of things that we can talk about, and, you know, it can be up to a week or more, or it can be 3 days, whatever you need. And we also do consulting. We can do some custom scripts or bots, and we have projects, mainly big data cleanup projects for accounts and for names and addresses. What did I say? And if you go to the next slide, these are some examples of things you could use RPA for, although there's a plethora. There's so much stuff you can do, basically whatever you can think of. If it's a repetitive process that you don't want to do every day, you can use RPA for that. I guess that's all I have.
Yeah, thanks, Anwin. And so this is a small sample, you know, of just some ideas. Try to get your head thinking about what things you can automate. We do also have a list of that we've kind of created of other what other Premier banks have automated with Nintex RPA. It used to be called Foxtrot, by the way, so some folks still call it Foxtrot, you know, Foxtrot 1 or something like that. And they was called scripts then, and now they call them bot flows. So, and that was with the acquisition of EnableSoft by Nintex there a couple of years ago. So we try to use those terms interchangeably, but we're trying to move towards what Nintex is saying. Okay, it's RPA, and you know, so that's why you'll kind of see them go back and forth sometimes. But yeah, we have a full list of different processes, not, you know, what it's all possible. Again, like what Anwin said, you know, if there's a way to mouse and use a keyboard, then we can automate it. So the sky's the limit, but we have a list that we can provide. Just, you know, let us know if you're interested in that. Okay, well, with that being said, our next topic is just going to be from our special guest speaker, Miss Kyla. And she's going to talk about some of the items and things that she's taken advantage of over the years. So let me turn this on for you.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, there we go. Okay, we got you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I'm going to first start by saying this is great positioning for my spot in the meeting, because what I'm going to be speaking about is definitely how our RHA is great at utilizing business analytics and RPA, or formerly Foxtrot. So again, my name is Kyla LeDuc, and my bank is JD Bank. JD Bank's been around since the 40s, and through that time, like most banks, managing CIF was really not a priority. And so here we are years later, and we are looking at the daunting task of cleaning up our CIF. And so just to give you a little more background into JD Banks, again, when I said we didn't manage our CIF records very well, JD Bank through the years had different beliefs. So, you know, maybe a customer comes in to open an account, and with every account they open, they got a new name record. Then the belief became, however their name read on their driver's license is how their name needed to read. So maybe the variation of your name changed through time. And again, it happened by creating a new name record. So again, just to kind of give you the picture of what we were looking at here at JD Bank, our CIF was kind of a mess, really. One of the smartest things we could have done was partner with RHA. RHA came in, Denise and her team, they came in and they helped us first. They helped us develop some standards for our CIF. So what do we want our CIF to look like? Both for consumer name records on through business name records. They helped us develop those standards and kind of come up with a guide that we could publish for the whole entire bank to see. This is how we input a new consumer name record all the way through business name records, all the way through. So helping develop that standard. So right from the beginning, we helped do that, or they helped us do that. They came in, and again, they had, it was, I would almost call it plug and play, because they have these bot flows, or the old form of Foxtrot script built for name merging. And again, they've got the business analytic reports already built. So it's almost just like tweaking a couple of things to fit your bank, of course, and then it really automates the whole process of merging name records. Another fabulous thing that I think RHA did for their CIF cleanup plan was they broke it into phases. They really helped us work this through in phases. So we started to see some results pretty quickly. So, you know, we broke this into our phase one was merging all of our clients who matched by first name, last name, and by tax ID number, so they were exact matches. Maybe one client, again, had 5 different name records just through time here with JD Bank. So that first pass at our customers, we merged, and I forget the number, but it was a lot. I want to say close to like 100,000 name records we were able to consolidate and clean up our system, and that was a wonderful thing. And then phase two was matching people off of, again, tax ID number, and then, you know, merging them again based on our newly formed name standard. We began the process of meshing them into one name record. And so, again, I think the business analytics reports that were built probably needed a little bit of tweaking for JD Bank, just on how we were planning to do things. Same as those bot flows, a little bit of tweaking to kind of help get us on our way with those, but not much. Those were pretty much plug and play, like I say. Another wonderful thing I will say that JD Bank, or one of the wonderful things I'll say RHA did for JD Bank was they really helped us think through merging name records. For us being a Fiserv Premier bank, and our online banking is still driven on port number name line. They were really, really sensitive to that and helped make sure that we didn't trip any of our online banking clients up. And so again, I think they have a really well-baked CIF cleanup project. And so big, big kudos to Denise and her team.
Or in this case would be cheers if we all had our Mai Tais.
Yeah.
Cheers. Kyla, thank you so much. It was really nice working with you, and we love being in Louisiana. What a fun
Well, we love
that is.
working with you, and we can't wait for future projects. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So next on our agenda is another Nintex tool called Workflow. And Denise is going to help us walk through this one.
Yeah, so first I'm going to talk a little bit about what workflow is and what we're talking about. Some of you may have a real good solid idea of workflow, and others may not be familiar with what Nintex is doing with workflow. So it's a very powerful tool, and it can be used to streamline a lot of processes right in the core of your business. It has an intuitive drag and drop design. So you can see a little bit of it over there on the right. And you're literally taking right under the word Nintex on the screen, you actually take those items and you drag them over, and then you format them for whatever workflow that you're designing. So couldn't be easier that way. So you can quickly create and deploy workflows across your business. And one of the great things is that this system integrates with a lot of other different systems. So it integrates with the Nintex systems, but also Salesforce and Google, Google Gmail and Google Docs and Calendar and all of that sort of thing, and Microsoft applications. And you can also design your own interfaces. It has the ability, it has an open API, so that if you need to, if there is a system that you're using that you want to have an interface with, you can do that. So it really is an end-to-end system. It even has a process mapping tool that you can build out your workflow in ahead of time called ProMap, so you can actually see what your process is going to look at and work with the end users on. You can generate documents. So if you have a form that you need to use with your customers or your internal people, you can use this system to gather the information and generate that document. And it integrates with RPA. So RPA or Foxtrot can be used to feed information into the workflow, or to feed information back through RPA, so that you can push the information to your mainframe or to email or different systems within your internal system. And has an e-signature, and like I said, a lot of other things, but like, for example, the, let's see, what is that document signature system? The DocuSign. So it integrates with DocuSign, and also there's one that's, there's another system so if you have a signature system that you want to integrate with, chances are it probably is doing that. So it has a fast time to value startup kind of approach, but it also has a lot of detail that you can put into it. So you can do some real simple workflows, or you can do some very complex stuff too. So what are some of the things that we're doing? As I mentioned, you can load RPA files up to the workflow, and you can write to them. Foxtrot and RPA and workflow actually come bundled together. So if you're purchasing workflow, you also can be purchasing your Foxtrot RPA licenses. So if you already have Foxtrot RPA, you get to leverage the cost of that when you renew your license. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of different systems that it integrates with. So MailChimp, Helpdesk, Zendesk. I think there's 2 Helpdesk softwares that it's already integrated with. Microsoft Teams. I know a lot of the banks are using Microsoft Teams, so it's integrated with that and some other things. Bitly, I don't know if you're doing a lot of website work, you might know, or marketing, you might know what that is. That actually takes a URL and shrinks it down. So you can actually build that into your workflow if you have some kind of workflow that automatically builds URLs. And custom integration. Let's move on to the next one. So what are we doing with Nintex workflow? Well, one of the most interesting things that I've worked on, and it's been kind of a long road, the PPP program. And any of you that have been working on PPP know that that has been a nightmare for a lot of banks, and for good reason. You were just you had a lot of things thrown at you all at once, and you were expected to make sense of it very quickly. And it wasn't the kind of operation that a lot of banks were used to, having to do massive amounts of loans at once. Some banks were set up for that and others weren't. So along comes Nintex, and when I started working with it, I was looking at loan forgiveness. So we were using loan forgiveness. There was actually a forgiveness application, and that was, just like a paper application that you might have, but we had the application and all of the compliance verbiage is in there. And when people click on things, just like any other workflow, it will take you to another set of questions, or it will allow you to upload files if that's what you need. So we had the forgiveness application process, and built into that was a workflow for where are we going? That's all right. There was a workflow for the approval. So the lender end of things was integrated with the customer. And so that made it easier to organize what the forgiveness process. Onboarding the loans, we used RPA to onboard loans for some banks, and that allowed them to actually take these thousands of loans and get them into the system and then do whatever they needed to do beyond that. Submission to SBA, that was facilitated with RPA. And also loan approval and loan application. So along comes the second wave, the second set of PPP loans. And some banks said, oh, we're not dealing with this. And others were told, yes, you are. So loan applications, the whole application was out there, and I had a customer that built 2 applications. She watched what I did, and then she said, I can do this. And she did. She did a really good job. So you take the application and build in the approval and the DocuSign, and you've got basically a whole loan platform going on just for these PPP loans. It's fabulous, the amount of technology you can build all into that, and how you can, you're allowing people to email back and forth, and to watch out when someone doesn't get an email, or if they don't respond to the email in time. You can email back and forth on that. So it pushes your workflow from stage to stage. Here's where the application comes in. Okay, you send an email to the customer, received your application. And then depending on what's in the application, it goes to the lender, and the lender says, oh, but we need X, Y, and Z. So the lender sends an email back to the customer, and the customer sends it back, and then it comes back to the lender. Well, the lender isn't sitting around chasing it. They're getting notification every time it's ready for them to look at it. So that relieves some of the stress off from them. And then once the application is ready and the lender is ready to go, off it goes to DocuSign and the customer, and then it goes off to the next group that's going to do the loan submission. So pretty handy tool to have. We're also looking at, we're starting to use the system for customer data cleanup. So if you've got data, you've got it all cleaned up, and then you want to keep it clean. So what we're doing is some workflows that will actually go out to the branches or to the back office and say, hey, here's an item that needs attention. What do you want to do with it? And once they decide what they want to do with it, it goes back to RPA, runs the script, and updates the mainframe. So kind of streamlines that whole cleanup process. And also we can do that with address change management, have it go through the whole change process in an automated fashion using workflow. It's that next step. So we had business analytics, and then we had RPA, and then we have workflow. Of course, on top of that, you put the strategy, right? You want to have your strategy on top, just like Kyla was saying. You know, we bring that to you. How are you going to do this? How are you going to approach that? And then build these automation parts on top of that. So are we replacing people? I think a lot of people have a fear that automation is going to replace people. That's why I mention it. In the case of the PPP loans, we were actually doing stuff that was hard for people to keep up with. So I like to think of it that way. It's really competitive advantage is what you're looking at here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Denise. All right, so we'll move along to the next section, and that's going to be our Zip Code Academy. So we've had a few inquiries about this product, and it's kind of an add-on product, but we also kind of have it as one of the components of our name and address project or engagement. So we have Peruse on the line, and he's going to talk a little bit more in depth about this solution.
It would help to unmute myself. Well, good to see everybody. And Ray, do you want to give me access to the screen?
I do. And
Okay.
all yours.
All right, I'm going to zip through this short presentation. Some of you have already used the application. So let me just give you a little bit of background. Some of you know me from originally when I was part owner of Printmail Solutions, and the experience that we have with mailing the statements was quite an adventure. Seeing addresses, examining addresses to be able to update them with the Zip+4, and also be able to barcode the addresses for U.S. Postal Services, and getting the discounts for you, for some of your folks who are in the conference. And I used to cringe at looking at the addresses, and I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, you send this out like this? Because I have been the recipient of people who had either bought a list, or something was misspelled, or something didn't look right, and they never bothered correcting it. And personally, maybe I'm too OCD, but it doesn't look good. It's not professional. It doesn't reflect on an organization. When you have misspellings in the address, sloppily entered addresses, just doesn't look right. That's one piece of it. That's the appearance of it. So with Printmail, we were not allowed to touch the address. All we could do is add this +4 in order to get the discount. So when Denise contacted me about some of the work that they're doing, I thought it was a great opportunity to be able to assist from the bank end to do the work. So we've developed our website. Zip Code Academy, and this is a subscription. We get an update from U.S. Postal Service provider every 2 months, and as a client, you can load up the address to the system, and within a matter of minutes, it provides an update to the ZIP+4, in addition to correcting spelling. And if you choose to, if you want to do the proper casing, and by proper casing, I don't mean just using the first letter, making it uppercase. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we standardize the address what U.S. Postal Service would like to see. We do the abbreviations for street down to ST, avenue down to ABE, and so on and so forth, and make the whole address data for your customers standardized to look, to have that access. Now, that helps with tax reporting. It reduces in return mail. You see a major reduction in return mail a lot of times. And obviously, if you're using a print mail service like Print Mail Solutions, they'll get the discount for you. But there's sometimes that you send other mailings that outside of your print mail provider, or you're doing it in-house, that you're missing out on the postal discounts. And more importantly, one of the pieces that we found is a lot of the banks have clients that sit in rural routes and boxes. With the changes in the emergency 911, there actually are now the actual physical address and a street address for each place. And what needs to be done is to be able to update that. This our solution provides that. So if your client has rural route, it'll give you what the option is for the actual street address. There's a lot more of it that we've done with this, and we've done some adjustments for clients as needed, and there's custom dictionaries in there. And then as an ancillary, oops. How come it doesn't go?
No.
Okay. We are also providing just doing the proper casing for names. We built that application last year, and it's been very, very successful in terms of how it works. We are able to automatically detect companies versus individual names. And because within the companies, there are things that you do not want to proper case. You want to leave it alone. Like if it's a AAA company, you want those AAAs to stay uppercase. So we're able to detect that. And we built a very comprehensive dictionary to begin with. But then through that service, you also are capable of adding other things to the dictionary, for custom dictionary for each bank. In terms of pricing, from what I recall, I stand to be corrected, Fiserv used to charge $10,000 to do the ZIP+4 to the addresses. And they charge substantially to do the proper casing. We can talk to Denise about the pricing, but we are like a fraction of that cost that they were doing. And with Fiserv, from what I recall, you would get a one-time update. With our service, once you're subscribed to it, it's an initial subscription and then an annual maintenance. But you can use it as much as you want. And that's my presentation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yeah, it's a very powerful tool. So thanks again. All right, so moving along, the next option that we have is going to be prize time for a pineapple pool float. Now, I know everybody wants one of these, but we can only give it to one person. Looks like on my little generator, Tammy Joseph was the next one. So Tammy, congratulations on your very own mega pineapple pool float. It may cause smiling, like this is a huge smile, so you may just be careful, don't want to smile too big. But so that was our next prize time, and congratulations, Tammy Joseph. All right, so we'll move along here for our next very special guest speaker, Mr. Ronald Ross, and he is with Bank of Utah. So what I'm going to do, he's got a little presentation. So Ronald, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Awesome, we got you loud and clear.
Great.
I'm going to bring up your slide deck.
Okay.
And I'll give you control here in just a second.
Perfect.
Okay, so you should be able to take control, and you can take it away, sir.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ray. Let me make sure I can see this correctly. Excellent. Well, thanks, everyone. This has been a really nice meeting so far. A lot to learn, and there are many things that we still need to do to keep ourselves in the game with data and data cleanup and all the great things that are out there for us to prepare to serve our customers with good data. And as Ray mentioned, I work with Bank of Utah, and Bank of Utah has a customer-centered approach, and I think that's where the initiative for data cleanup came from. We are working hard on making sure that our data is clean enough so that we can see the customer as someone who we can understand, and then through our data provide the best services that they need. So what I want to do is kind of take you guys along really quick. Let me put this a little bit bigger. Perfect. Okay, so beginning of next year, we were talking to Denise about our intentions to engage in this data cleanup project. There were a few things that we encountered when we started looking at the data in more detail. We needed a better customer definition to understand how we were going to tackle that part of the business. We identified that there were some collection practices that needed to be adjusted for us to keep that data clean. The data integrity, because of these data collection practices and all the data that we had gathered that was not completely clean, was causing issues with data integrity. And then we had the idea of, okay, we cleaned the data, but then we need to make sure we have a plan in place for ongoing data cleanup. I'm trying to change the slide. Here it goes. Okay, perfect. So for every 100 names that we had originally when we looked at our data, we had 59 addresses. So we had some concerns. Some of our concerns were, are all these names and addresses truly unique? Do all these names and addresses have a relationship to any product at the bank? what are the tasks that need to be performed to come to clean data. And that's when I think was really important to understand that even though we wanted to move all the pieces, there were other elements around us that also needed to move in order to achieve the data cleanup project. And this is probably more detail on where we were at before RHA and all the data cleanup project. We had 33% of addresses for those customers, 60% of phone numbers, and 17% of emails. And we went through many more attributes within our data set, but this is just to give you an idea of where we were at. We came with a definition of a customer. We defined it as someone who controls an account, who has control over an account for another individual who lacks legal capacity to do so. So basically, the approach that we were giving to this was our customer is an individual, a person who has the power to make a decision in behalf of himself, if he's the customer or the company that he represents. So there were four pillars that we identified. We said, well, we need to engage in this data cleanup project. How are we going to do this? We started talking to RHA Banking, and that really expanded the vision that we had on what we could do to actually make this data cleanup a reality. The four pillars that we identified, the four tools and processes, was, of course, involving RHA Banking because of the experience that they had engaging with other banks and helping them engage with the standards, modifications, and meeting with the stakeholders from different business units, and then understanding the direction and the speed that we needed to move with the data cleanup. We engaged with a focus group, and there are some names there that are just internal stakeholders. This is a presentation I use in the bank for explaining this, so I'm kind of resharing it with you. The robotic process automation with RHA was a huge piece. When we looked at this at first glance, we said, well, this is going to take us a few years manually doing it, identifying how we can get the exception reports to come into Premier and actually going through Navigator and the whole process of making the changes. But the exception reports and using the robotic process automation with Mintex was really, really key. And then we also used Tableau to visualize our progress. We had we built a dashboard called the Stop the Bleeding report, where we would see frequently what's the progress that was being made as we were going through this data cleanup project, and the results were pretty impressive. These are some of the scripts that we were able to use with RHA Banking to be able to go into our core and make changes. We also work with Peruse to clean further our data or addresses and make sure that when we came to the stage of merging addresses, we really had the addresses that we wanted to look at, see if they were really matching. We work with more exception reports and more scripts than what's here, but this is just to give you an idea of some of the exception reports and scripts that we were using throughout the process. So after the data cleanup, I would summarize many of the things that we did in two really significant numbers in our bank. We had a reduction of name of 26% of names, which means within those 26% of names, we had names that were not attached to anything, that were just sitting in our core and were giving us a false idea of, who were really our customers, who were doing business with us. These were probably accounts that were closed many, many years ago. And this reduction came also as a result of the merge process. So now we were getting a better number, a real number that was telling us, okay, this is the number of customers that we're working with is right now about 60,000 customers, and we can better understand them because now we're talking about these unique customers. these are some of the improvements, and I think it's really interesting, the first bar comparison on addresses. Before we had 33% of addresses, and then we had, after the cleanup, we had 31% of addresses. And there's another system in the bank that has to do with mortgage that still needs to bring addresses to our core, and that will give us a better percentage there. But what I found really interesting is that working with RHA, we realized that lowering the percentage of or the addresses that we had wasn't necessarily a bad thing. We were just coming to the reality of where we were at. This was our reality now. We don't have 33% of addresses, we have 31% of addresses. And there's work to be done, and there are different business units working with it. But now we have a real number. We increased on birth dates, we increased on phone numbers, on the emails was significantly, 17% to 45%. Customer type, we also had an increment there. And this is all from January last year, and the latest data, we pulled it on March 2021. So I think these are some pretty interesting numbers that we were able to achieve with RHA's help. During 2020, we added 9,000 names, and we were able to remove 15,000 names with the cleanup process. Pretty amazing there, the work we were able to accomplish with RHA. So after we completed the data cleanup project, we came to that milestone where we had to answer that question, where we needed to understand, what do we do now? How do we keep this clean? RHA Banking has been really good at taking us by the hand throughout this process and helping us understand what are the next steps and how we can achieve them. So yes, we use the RPA to clean the data, but then Denise talked about, that went a little bit farther. There we go. I don't know what that keeps moving. Is someone clicking on? There we go. Nope, that's going far. Here we go. So we use the Nintex workflow to, we're using the Nintex workflow to create that flow that is going to allow us to keep the data clean. Denise explained it well. We are involving other business units to understand whether names should be merged or not. The Nintex workflow and the robotic process automation are also pulling reports from our core and understanding those exception reports to then go back and doing the cleaning automatically, which is great. That minimizes the manual review, which is a great advantage, just having the RPA do it. And we take this process and we're planning to do a semi-annual review of the whole process, which is something that will help us keep everything streamlined in the most efficient way. So data clean, the process of data clean keeps going because we have that process into place. So what's next? And this is just a peek of some of the possibilities, because if you clean the data, great, you have data clean, but what do you do with that? At Bank of Utah, we understand that the potential of clean data is to better understand our customers. And that's why one of the first projects that we are engaging with after the data cleanup project is to get a 360-degree customer's view, because the data is clean and we know that there are no extra names in the core that need to be there. We know that there can be a connection to other data sources at the bank, and we can say this customer has this many products, and it's a unique customer. We're not going to leave products out because there is another customer that is a duplicate that is attached to other products out there. Because of the help we got from RHA Banking and the work internally that we have done here at the bank, we know that when we get a customer and we get the relationships, we're getting a single customer, a unique individual that has that relationship without leaving products behind. In this 360-degree view customer, a use case would be to get a dashboard going on Tableau and inputting the social security number, then with that query of that social security number, you will retrieve from a central repository information from the different data marts that we have gathered throughout the bank, and then the query would spit out the relationships from that unique customer. And I think that's one of the many possibilities that we can have, is just get that customer and understand that 360-degree view of the customer. I think that working with RHA has allowed us to get to this milestone, to look farther into the future and say, okay, because we can understand better our customers, now we can serve them better. And yeah, it's been amazing. I really appreciate the job, and we have enjoyed working with RHA very much. So appreciate what you guys have done.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Ronald. I appreciate all the kind words and this amazing presentation that you put together. That is very powerful. So we appreciate that.
It's been really nice working with Ronald, and I was so glad when he volunteered to do a presentation for us, because he really put together a very nice one, and the timing was great because we were just transitioning from one project to the next. And I gotta say that he said we gave him a lot of attention, and he got some extra attention because it was during the COVID period. So people,
Right.
people who were working with us during this period, it's not like we're on site, we're off site, and that's it. It was over time, and I think that we learned a lot from working this way. So I like the way that we worked together and how it turned out. It was good. Thank you, Ronald.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Ooh, prize time.
Yay, it's prize time. So these are some very special items. First, I've never heard of them before this, and I need to get myself a pair now. So that's a pair of JBLs and one of these I need to get. So thanks, Denise, for
I think he's hinting at that. I don't have extras, sorry, Ray. But these have when you put them on, your MP3 syncs to it. Your Bluetooth, I mean, it syncs to it, and you just put them on, so you can look like you're just casually walking around with your sunglasses on, but in reality, you're listening to music. So, and they sound great because they're Bose, so of course they sound really good too. So
yeah, that's the coolest. That's the coolest. So when I run the generator, so Dave Interline.
Oh, Dave.
Come on down.
Dave.
So
He'll
Dave's
be
the
running
lucky...
around Ohio with those on.
yeah, no problem. And so this is the special prize as well that comes with some professional services monies. So you get a $1,500 towards some professional services from RHA as well. And congratulations, and thank you for staying with us, everyone, as we went through all of this fun and exciting stuff. And we try to make it as fun as we can. And I think with these prizes from Denise and the team here, that definitely helps out. So with that, go ahead.
We had one question.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we could do a Q&A since I think we've got a few minutes to spare, so we can hang out. And if you want to type it in the chat, we can try to get to it here.
Okay, so it looks like Zach Mears asked for the day-to-day processes we've automated, so we can get a copy of that out to, we can actually send it to everybody. And then we've got another one here. Oh, this is just Dave saying thank you for the the glasses. So, and that, are there other, we have a little time, we have about 5 minutes for questions. So if anyone has a question they want to ask us or Ronald, Kyla had to run off, but if you have a question for her, we can get that to her.
Yeah, well, I saw another one in here. It looks like they're asking about if you can incorporate data from the cleanup process into other systems. And that's a great question. So any of the data that we cleanse through your core and then put it through Zip Code Academy to correct addresses, you can distribute that to any other of your third-party systems. So it's not limited to any particular system, but you can distribute it as you see needed. And of course, if your third-party system doesn't have an import tool or something like that, that's when RPA comes into play, where you can use a bot flow to enter that data into those systems using the user interface. Which I might add, there's some benefits to doing that. It helps all your business rules stay intact, that the application enforces. So a user can't put in data that it doesn't recognize in the database. So yes, you can distribute the information. All right, and then another one here. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead, Denise.
Does your workflow process work with Director? Looking for something for new account review, including documents like signature cards or legal papers. We would have to see exactly what you're looking to do with that. Workflow does, Director does have a workflow built in, but if it's something we can access through RPA, we certainly can integrate it into the workflow of your Director process.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, Workflow does have some customization to integration, so you can use some, JSON coding or other types of queries to be able to push and pull data back and forth, and we can work in and see if that's a capability for you.
Fixed file formats. Best way to do this in business analytics. So Marilyn wants to know, she's received a few requests for fixed file data format file. So there is an output for fixed files that comes with the system, but the way that you would do that is to have to use the padding. So you would pad the fields to make sure they're exactly the same length every single time. So that's a formula that you would use to do that. If you just format them in Excel, it's not going to hold that. But if you use a formula to actually pad the fields and export it as CSV, then it'll be the right lengths.
So the core data, the processing center, is how and then we clean the data from the core into zip code or whatever tool. And then we enter it in through two different methods if we use an import or RPA. So if we use Foxtrot/RPA, you go in through the user interface to enter in the data back into the mainframe. So you'll have, basically there's two options. You go through the backend import or you go into the front end. Just like I mentioned earlier about the third-party systems, how you can distribute it with RPA, we recommend using it because, again, it uses the business rules of the application's user interface. So when you're typing in data, and then that field has validation on it, it uses those rules, says, oh, that data doesn't match or something like that. So you'll know that all of your data entry is going to be cleaned through that layer as well.
When we're sending the data back to the core, we're using Navigator, or we might use Map. RPA is a great tool, but sometimes it's not the right tool. So sometimes the data will go back through Map instead, so you create a file and then you're going to use Map. But if you're using it through workflow and RPA, then that is going to be done through Navigator or another system, but you use the RPA to start that up, however that happens to be started, whatever you're doing manually to transfer the files or to actually do the data entry. That's what RPA will do. If you're talking about workflow will start that, or if you're just going to use the scripts, you can do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. We have this question: if the core at the processing center is at the processing center, how is the clean data returned? So if you're a service bureau, it's exactly the same thing. We don't have to have access to the service bureau. It goes back through Navigator.
Yeah.
And if that's not the right answer, if either one of them didn't answer the question, please let us know.
Yeah. And I know, so I said it was, we'd get out of here at 3:30. It's over the time. So, again, thank you. If you have to go, we understand. Of course, we don't mind hanging out, taking any more questions, but, again, just wanted to say thank you if you had to bail. Thanks
Thank
for coming.
you all for coming. Yes.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
But I've got a couple minutes, so if you want to ask anything, feel free.
Nice job, everybody.
All right. Well, we don't have any other questions, so we'll go ahead and log on out of here. Email us if you need something. Thanks again. See you later.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Barb.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.